must be prepared, for at an hour you do not expect, the Son of Man will come. The Gospel of the Lord. Jesus says that his second coming will be like the time of Noah before the flood. Now, that story of Noah and the ark and the great flood is told in Genesis chapters 3 through 6. And it's one of those stories that we love to tell our children, right? Tell them about this big boat and all the animals and the rainbow, and they have pictures and they color them, and it seems like they're all going on a cruise. Right? But the real story is a little more PG-13, isn't it? Right? It's a great flood, right? Countless people, overwhelmed by the waters, drowning, and washed away. There is massive destruction in the story. Now, there's quite a debate about the historical basis for the biblical narrative. I find it interesting that there's 300 distinct ethnic groups all over the world that all have a story of a prehistoric flood, a massive flood. Something happened that gave rise to this collective human memory. In the biblical account, it says that the reason of the flood was that the wickedness of humanity had become so great that God needed to start over. In the rite of baptism, when the priest or deacon is blessing the water to be used for baptism, he makes reference to the great flood. And he speaks of the floodwaters that make an end of sin and a new beginning of goodness. And indeed, in a similar way, the second coming of Christ has this twofold aspect, right? Making an end of sin, Christ comes finally to eliminate all evil, and then to complete the goodness that he had begun in his first coming. Now, the final reality will be one of perfection. Perfect joy, perfect love, perfect peace. We're given a glimpse of this in the vision of the prophet Isaiah in our first reading, where he describes the mountain of the Lord. Now, they would refer to the hill in which the Jerusalem temple sat as the mountain of the Lord. That hill, you can look it up, is about 2,700 feet above sea level. So while it's higher than the surrounding hills, it's not nearly the highest mountain in the world. But Isaiah sees it as the highest mountain in the world. And he sees people from all over the world, of every background, streaming to the mountain of the Lord so that they can be instructed by the God of Jacob and walk in his paths. Isaiah uses a phrase that is found elsewhere in the Bible, that the swords will be beaten into plowshares. It's a wonderful image, right? Swords are these metal instruments of death, of killing. And plowshares are instruments for farming. So this is a powerful way of describing peace, right? When swords are beat into plowshares. War is the great scourge of mankind, the most obvious sign of the fallenness of the world. There can be, in war, valor and courage. And the church teaches that under certain circumstances, fighting in a war can be just. A nation can declare war justly. But the church also teaches that war should be the absolute last resort. In the wars that our nation fought in Afghanistan and Iraq, our troops suffered what would be considered very small casualties, only about 7,000 combat deaths. But there was other evils that came from that war. 30,000 of the veterans who returned died by suicide. And millions of people in the Middle East died as a result of those wars. Not to mention all the suffering short of death. In my adult lifetime, the only thing that leaders of both political parties have been able to agree on is more war. And the church must always be a witness and encouragement to peace. We rightly long for and pray for and work for peace until the day when the kingdom of Christ in its fullness will put an end to war for good. And Jesus says in the days of Noah, people were going about their lives as usual, eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, having no clue about the massive flood that was going to come. And he says, so will it be at the coming of the Son of Man. Now, you don't even have to be a Christian. You just have to be someone knowledgeable of history to understand that times of peace and prosperity and stability do not last forever. There have always been massive crises, massive changes, societal collapses, oftentimes happening more quickly than people expected. In 1914, there was rising tensions between the powers in Europe, and many people thought there would be some war that would happen, but they thought it would be short and relatively limited. Almost no one expected that when the Archduke Franz Ferdinand was assassinated, it would lead to a 4-year-long industrialized war where between 10 and 20 million people were killed between military and civilian deaths. World War I led to the collapse of 4 empires. The hubris, the overweening pride of people leads us to think that the things that we have built will last forever. The poet Shelley penned a poem entitled Ozymandias, and it describes a traveler that goes to this exotic land and returns and describes what he discovered. He had gone out into the middle of the desert, in the middle of nowhere, and found the ruins of a large statue, what had been a large statue. All he finds is these 2 stone legs, and the face of this man, some king, had a frown and a sneer of cold command. And there was an inscription next to the statue which read, "My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair." Of course, nothing remained of that ruler's kingdom. Since the coming of the Son of Man is unexpected, we are told to always be ready. We're told to stay awake. St. Paul tells us to throw off the works of darkness and put on the armor of light. Avoid the orgies and drunkenness, promiscuity and lust, rivalry and jealousy of the wicked generation in which we live, and put on the Lord Jesus Christ. Brothers and sisters, we are like Noah. God has told us, He has given us a prophetic word, that the great day of destruction and new creation is coming. And we're supposed to build an ark, but it's not a big wooden boat. The ark that we build is Christian community. Community centered on the Lord Jesus Christ. I can imagine Noah working week after week, building that ark, and his neighbors and acquaintances coming by. "Noah, what you doing?" "Well, there's going to be a great flood." "Sure, there's going to be a great flood. You're wasting your time. Come on, have fun with us." We're supposed to be like Noah. So you should have friends and acquaintances who say, "What are you doing spending all this time doing church stuff?" And if you don't have them saying that, you're probably not spending enough time doing church stuff. I've told you before that in college, in the midst of college, I had a deeper conversion to Christ. My junior year of college, I set up for and served daily Mass at 11:15 p.m., right, Monday through Thursday. And on Fridays, I went to a different place, to a chapel, for an evening of recollection. And guess what? My friends that I had partied with my freshman year said, "Tony, what's going on? How come you're never free? You're doing all this church stuff. Come on, have fun with us. Don't waste your time." I should have told them about the flood, but I told them instead that I'm finding joy and peace in what I'm doing. That's better than the fun that we used to enjoy. And I invited them to join me. And some of them did. And so should you be inviting people to join you in the ark. in the Christian community that we build. Whatever we build on our own will not last. What we build with God will survive the catastrophe and last into the new age. We will exit the ark on the mountain of the Lord, and the peace we have longed for and prayed for and worked for will be our reward. I believe in one God,